Good evening to the Monday night panel tonight. So happy St. Patrick's Day to all our Irish viewers. Hope you're having a good day. Just a few announcements. So on Saturday, it was the level playing fields day, the access all areas, which went absolutely fantastically. So all the disabled, the ambulant fans had a chance to have hospitality, be flag bearers, and totally enjoyed the afternoon. So well done to Caroline for organising all that. This Saturday against Accrington, it's Down Syndrome's Day. A couple of the group went out to the training ground last week and met the players and had a fantastic day. And so they're going to be on the pitch on Saturday. So we'll all give them a good welcome there as well. And Junior Reds Room, it was lovely to hear Ian Holloway mention it in his post-match interview. It's the first time he's been down there. I think he caused absolute chaos. Everybody, knowing that he was in there, wanted to get in. So fantastic for him to spend time over there and get to know the room. So that was fantastic too. A couple of things. Happy birthday to Karen Cook, if she's watching us tonight. And also happy anniversary to Dan Thomas and his wife, Kelly. And now I will probably think on. There we go.
Hi, Chris. You all right?
Yes, I'm good. You okay?
I believe I am. Yeah. So I've got all things seem to be working. Yes, a bit of SAS news for you now. Morecambe, of course, is a week on Saturday. Long old trip up there. There are a few seats left on SAS for Morecambe. So if you want to get in touch with them about that one. But for Fleetwood, which is sometime in April, only 2 left for the first coach for that. And they'd need significant interest to be able to run a second. So if you do want to go to Fleetwood on the bus, get in touch with them quickly, because obviously they have to order the buses in advance, don't they? So please feel free to get in touch with them as soon as you can if you want to go to Fleetwood. Both of those trips depart at 7:45 from the county ground, 7:45 a.m. That's £33 for members, £35 for non-members. So SAS Travel are getting us to every single away game that Swindon Town play, and they do a magnificent job. So that's the news from them this Monday evening.
Brilliant. And we're going to gloss over the youth result at the weekend. We don't...
No, they didn't win.
A bit of a blip.
They did win. Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll gloss over that.
We'll leave it there, yeah.
Let's bring the panel on tonight. So we've got Mike.
Who's live from the top of Swindon fire station. Here he is. Look at that. He's on a ladder above the fire station, Mike. Congratulations.
We've got Mike, the 2 Andys, and Nick. So I will leave you and speak to you later.
Chris, thanks very much indeed. And Nick is live from a house at the top of Shrivenham Road, so overlooking the ground. So a bit chilly up there, I would think, Nick, tonight. Good evening, all. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Mr. Cousins, very good evening to you.
Good evening.
Mr. Garrett, a very good evening to you.
Good evening.
Evening. Now, John Stevens will no doubt be taking note of the backgrounds and judging you. I think the winners tonight are definitely Mike and Nick for their outside broadcast, so well done to you both. Right, let's go through the basics of Saturday then. The facts are this. Swindon Town 3, Cheltenham 3. Will Wright with a spectacular free kick on 45 plus 3 for Swindon. Kamongo Shimango with a penalty on 67. Ollie Clark, 2 minutes from time with the equaliser. For Cheltenham, Jordan Thomas on 8 minutes. Timothy Dieng on 48. And a Will Wright own goal on 54 minutes. We should at this point pay tribute to Will Wright for playing, despite the sad news of his loss of his mother in the previous week. So I think before we say anything else, let's wish our best wishes to Will and his family after that sad news. Mr. Cousins, what did you think of Saturday?
Strange. It's interesting because obviously we've still got an opportunity technically to go up. I think even the most positive of us realise that probably ship has sailed. So it's often sort of quite difficult to get sort of massively motivated with it all, isn't it? And it was a really sort of flaky first half, wasn't it? It was I don't know. It just didn't seem to click. I have a theory, and it tends to be that we don't click when Mr. Offerball's not playing. I just felt that we just didn't have control of that game, and Cheltenham are a classic Div 2 side, aren't they? I believe you were doing a rugby commentary yesterday, Vic, and I was surprised that you didn't see Mr. Stubbs there, because I don't think he did anything football-esque on Saturday other than manhand or Harry Smith all the time. So it wasn't a particularly enjoyable game as far as I was concerned. I mean, obviously the result was good and there were some exciting bits, but we did well to come back from 3-1 down. But yeah, all in all, it ended the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mike, I think obviously it was a typical county ground windy day. It was cold, wasn't it? The pitch was bobbly, all that kind of thing. They got off to a great start with a goal on 8 minutes. And, I thought they were kind of the dominant side in that first half. But when you look at the possession, it was Swindon had 64.6%, and Cheltenham had 35.4%. And yet in that first half, you would have thought it'd been much more than that, really.
I thought it was a game of two halves. In the first half, you struggled to stay awake. And in the second half, if you blinked, you missed something big. The people who sit by us went out 5 minutes before the end of the first half and came back 5 minutes into the second half.
Oh,
and they missed most of the action in that time. So as they normally do. Strange. And it had a bit of a end of season game feel about it in the first half. I thought it was Cheltenham seemed surprised to take the lead, actually. Despite the fact that they were the better side in the first half, their players seemed quite surprised, and their fans seemed even more surprised when they took the lead. But hey, we got some entertainment in the end.
we certainly did, Nick. I know you weren't there because of how can I put this? You weren't very well, but you watched the game anyway. We should say there were over 1,000 from Cheltenham there on Saturday, a crowd of 8,556. What were your views of the game from the coach's perspective? Because it seemed to me in the first half, Swindon couldn't pass the ball to each other somehow, or they couldn't keep control of it, or it ended up in touch. It was one of those games, wasn't it?
Yeah, it seems funny because if you look at the result 3-3, you think, oh, what a game that must have been. But it was a really bad 3-3 game. That's the sort of sad thing about the game. We couldn't keep control of it. We even in the second half, right, we come back into it, but it wasn't a very good game. And then from a coaching point of view, the goals we conceded, all three of them. Oh my God, you'd be pulling. And that's why I like when you listen to the interview of Holloway, how he complained about, and I think as fans, that's what we want. It's an honest opinion, and he was so adamant how bad it was, all three goals. And they were so bad. And I always like clean sheets. I'm a boring coach. I like 1-0s rather than 5-4s. I like the clean sheet. And that was so poor. The first goal, he's cut in, like you said, no one's closed him down, and he's had a shot. And I know they say sometimes the goalie saw it late, but I still think he should have done better as well. I think all of them. I think that's all round for that one. It was just so poor.
Yeah, Andy G, if I might use that. What were your views of it? I mean, I think it was fair to say it wasn't a game that will live long in the memory, despite the fact there were 6 goals in it, a sending off, and just about everything else in it. But it just, it didn't really take off until the second 45 minutes, did it?
No, not at all. Okay, you could probably say it took off just before half-time with the free kick. And then, you had the 2 quick goals after half-time from Cheltenham. And then you started thinking, oh, dear me, it's going to be one of them days. But, we certainly battled away. And obviously the sending off and the penalty had a big impact on the game. And then we managed to get it. And we could have actually won it right at the end as well. We were very unlucky not to get it at the end.
Yeah, what about that, Mr. Cousin, the sending off? I mean, it was, how can we put this, a robust performance from Cheltenham in many respects on Harry Smith. I mean, how referees don't pick it up more, I'm really quite shocked about the whole thing. They had the 2 yellow cards for Bradbury, and Stubbs had 1 and booking on 8 minutes. I mean, that's not a lot, is it? Bearing in mind the amount of grappling that goes on in that game.
No, and I mean Michael Flynn actually was moaning that they had that many more bookings, but I think that that's what they were, and I think there's been a change in the interpretation of the rules. The referees have been told to sort of allow a little bit more to go. I think a lot of the referees we've been seeing are struggling with that concept, because there's times when you think, really, that was an innocuous foul that's given, and they penalise them. And in fact, I think he booked a few sort of fairly innocuous things. And yet the manhandling, I mean, I just cannot, in all the years I've been watching football, I just cannot get to grips with the fact that you can legitimately physically hold someone, wrap your arms around someone and be allowed for it to continue. The actual penalty, there was probably a lot worse went on, but I mean, he did. He threw Smith to the ground, and he'd only been booked about 5 minutes before, if I recall. So it was a daft thing to do. It's not enjoyable watching that, is it? It's Harry Smith did really, really well actually to keep his cool. We know he's got a bit of a short fuse. For him to manage that was exemplary, and I would say probably as a result of what he did was probably our man of the match.
Yeah, we'll get on to Harry Smith in a minute with you, Mike. But it's a comment from Anthony. He says the game just about summed our season up. Topsy-turvy all over the place. I think we could have done far more when they went down to 10 men, but we were quite passive. This makes the playoffs even harder, but whilst it's still mathematically possible, we'll have to go for it. I think Harry Smith deserves a lot of credit, Mike, doesn't he? Because I think if you think back to the Barrow game right at the start of the season, he reacted instantly and got himself sent off. But I mean, he's an experienced player, and he certainly seems to mature this season in terms of keeping his temper. Presumably, Ian Holloway's had a word with him, but he's done exceptionally well.
I think he should be taking it as a compliment that teams treat him in the way that they do. I mean, we've seen 3 or 4 away teams on the trot now, basically tag teaming him and taking it in turns to haul him around. And like you said, earlier in the season, his fuse was much shorter, and he did that ridiculous thing at Barrow. And he also did that ridiculous thing. What was the last home game when he threw the guy to the ground right in front of the dugout?
That was Chesterfield, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was lucky
Jack
to get
Sparks,
away with that. But considering the amount of abuse that he's receiving on the pitch, I think he's absolutely brilliant. The way that he handled himself on Saturday, and it was really, really weird that when the penalty came, I watched it back because the view that we have, their guy was in front of him, so we couldn't see him pulling his shirt back. But the weirdest thing when I saw it back, the angle from the other side, actually he had no chance of getting to the ball when the guy pulled him back, and the other centre-back cleared the ball away for a corner, and Smith would never have got anywhere near him. So it was the most ridiculous challenge, and so obvious when right in front of the referee as well. It beggared belief that their behaviour, particularly the captain, since he's only just been booked as well. When they were up against it at that point, and they were hanging on for the win, and they damn near ended up losing it because of that. Yeah, if it'd gone on another 5 or 10 minutes, I think they probably would have lost the game as well.
Yeah, Sean says we should have won. James, hi James. Do we feel Smith is getting enough protection from the refs? Every Saturday gets roughed up, has 2 or 3 players on him, everyone fouling him, yet he gets so little from the refs. Is his previous reputation going against him? Hi, Mark. Harry Smith had very little protection. He was manhandled every time an opposing player was anywhere near him. And with the manhandling of Smith, it's ridiculous what's not being given. Fair play to him for not retaliating, etc. I mean, it is amazing, isn't it, Andy G, that, we watch this every week and every week we're out of our seats going, come on, it's a foul, it's a yellow card, it's whatever it is. And yet it never happens.
No, you see it week in, week out, don't you? And Smith seems to be the main one involved. As someone just said, is it because his reputation has gone before him? I know he had some issues at Sutton when he was there. That does make you wonder, because some of the things that you've seen this season, especially involving Harry Smith, have been, absolutely terrible. And he's just not getting the protection, is he? Not at all.
And it used to be that, if it was a pull of a shirt, it was a yellow card, wasn't it, Andy? I mean, that's it.
Yeah, sorry, do you mean...
I meant Angie G. I'll come to you in a minute, but I'm going to go to... Yeah, Nick.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, if you're the opposition coach, right, and I keep asking you these coaching questions because you're the person to ask, really. But if you're the opposition coach, right, and you've got Harry Smith against you, what's your words to your central defenders?
Well, to upset him, to niggle him, to pull his shirt, to trip him, to just try and do it. So because he has got a fiery temper, because he is at the moment he has been our main marksman. And what I like about Harry Smith is he's not just wins everything in the air. His link-up plays good. He's got a good touch on him. He lays balls off. So it ain't just is we're just going to push him around because of the aerial. He's good all round for me. So that would be my thing. You niggle him early on, try and wind him up. Can we get him, sent off? At the end of the day, you would, because without him, we would struggle. Because he's our main target man up there and our main talisman up there. So, yeah, you would definitely try and wind him up. But he has done better, as the season's gone on. With his temperament, he hasn't got so wound up as he did earlier in the season as such.
So, from a coach's perspective, are the tactics legitimate, would you say?
Yeah, you would. From an opposing thing, but from then Holloway's, you'd be so frustrated because he doesn't get protected. And especially nowadays, they give him a lot of things like that, but they don't seem to give it to him.
Well, you see, that's the perspective we want to get from you because, we're not in the opposition dressing room. We don't know what the last thing they've said when they go out. But it's clear. I think we all know what the tactic is. We can all see it, can't we? Wind up Harry Smith, try and get him booked, sent off, etc., etc. So there we go. This is from Kevin, Andy, Mr. Cousins. Would we want Smith back?
What we want is to sign him again. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a absolute given. I mean, I think if you've been watching Swindon in the last few years, one of the things we've been crying out for is a big man up front. We've had the smaller guys, and Nick is absolutely right. I mean, not only talk about leading the line, he's magnificent because he's great in the air, as we know, but his touch on the ground and his link up play is a really, really for a man of his size is exceptional. And I think he's talismanic now. He's arguably, obviously he scored the most goals for us, but he's one of the most important players on that pitch.
Not only in the opposition penalty area, but in our own penalty area as well.
Very true. Yes, I mean, there's times you keep him on. I mean, if we're ahead, you keep him on because of his defensive qualities as well. So yeah, I mean, his all-round game is outstanding. I mean, it's interesting actually. When he was at Sutton, he was captain, wasn't he? And that brought the beast out in him as well. I was very, very impressed last year when we went there, and he was magnificent as a captain. So no, absolutely, he's one of the first people I would sign. I don't know the situation with him. Is his contract expire at the end of this year? I don't know.
No, I'm not sure. If somebody knows the answer to that, please get in touch. And when do the yellows get wiped out? Because it must be any time now, mustn't it? That they're got rid of.
Yeah, because Ollie Clark's was the other week, wasn't it? That was 10 yellows, wasn't it? I'm not entirely sure. We need Mr. Hawes on, don't we?
Yeah, we do. If you're listening, Andrew, please get in touch and let us know, or indeed come on and tell us. Hi, Paul. Why do we start weak and leave subs very late? We could win this. It's interesting, isn't it, Mike, that, Holloway has his starters and he has his finishers. It's a bit like American sport, isn't it? You have your closers, as they say in America. And he sticks to that. I mean, would you change that? I'll go through the lineup in a minute and I'll get everybody's views on the lineup. But, he brings a lot of pace on in the last few minutes, doesn't he?
I think so far since Holloway's been in charge, his substitutions have probably been one of the high points of his role. He seems to have a knack of doing it at the right time, bringing the right people on, and changing formation, moving just to keep the opposition thinking about what the hell we're doing next. I just wish at the moment that he had maybe just a little bit more muscle up front to bring on. I just feel at the moment when he brings Glatzel on, he's got bags and bags of pace, but he's obviously out of form. He's obviously low on confidence. I just think I think we're missing Drinan.
Oh, definitely.
Playing off
Yeah.
Harry Smith, because one of the big things about Harry Smith, as people have mentioned before, it's not just that he dominates leading the line. It's the space that he creates for everybody else. And if we just had, we've got Shimanga and we've got Glatzel, neither of them's forte is anticipating. Remember when Gary Lineker always used to say, you make 30 runs a game, and 29 times the ball doesn't go where you've made the run to. And the one time it does, you have to bury it. We don't seem to be doing that. And playing off of Smith, Drinan was really, when he got injured, was really coming to the fore and using that space that Harry Smith was creating for him. And just wish we still had him at the moment, or we could just get the others, Shimanga or Glatzel, just to make more of those runs. And when Shimanga does it, he's devastating. For me, he just doesn't do it enough.
I think the thing is about Drinan, he was really coming into his top form, wasn't he? I mean, he was as good as he'd been for Swindon, I think, when he got the injury, which is, obviously very sad for him because he's out for the rest of the season. And I think his contract's up in the summer. So let's hope that we can see what happens. This is an interesting one, Andy G. This is from Adrian. Get Michael Smith along Harry Smith next season. That would thwart the opposition. Wow, that would be a front two, wouldn't it?
It would, wouldn't it? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure they both work. I don't know. Worth thinking about, though, isn't it? It's yeah.
Yeah. So, what are your views on Harry Smith in terms of should he stay? Should we keep him next season to lead the line because he is such an influence, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, most definitely. Yes, most definitely. As Andy said earlier, we should keep him. We don't know when his contract's up. If his contract's up in the summer, then we need to look at definitely keeping hold of him and bringing in players around him maybe that can do the job. We don't know what's happening with Drinan. He's going to be out for the rest of the season. Does that mean that if his contract's up that then it's not going to be renewed? I don't know. Depends, I presume, on what the injury is, how serious the injury is likely to be in the end. I know they did try to bring Botan Amin in on Saturday and play the same sort of role maybe as Drinan played, which I think Amin has plenty of energy, but he's still very raw, isn't he? So, I think he's going to be a good prospect in the future, but he was running out of steam definitely at the end of the game.
Yeah. As great as he was at Doncaster the other week, it was a little flatter from him this week, wasn't it?
It was.
And that's no criticism. He's a young player, so he's not played many senior games. So that, I guess, is to be expected. Plus, of course, we should remember it's Ramadan at the moment, so he is observing that. So that might have had an effect on his energy. We'll see. This is from John Stevens. Here we go, chaps. The background views are in, so pay attention. A very little enjoyment to be had from Saturday's game, but mustn't forget last season we were hanging on to Leeds in a desperate fashion. But since Christmas, we seem to be the ones capable of getting back into games. Credit to Holloway for that. Not much to say about backgrounds, but Andy Sparks' background makes Andrew Hall's room looks like the Sistine Chapel. So there you go.
But there is, if you notice who it is on there, there's the magnificent Stephen Darby and Mr. Ferry.
Yes, so, the classic one. Yes. And is that? I just can't see the one on the left-hand side. Is that Simon Ferry?
There's Simon Ferry and Stephen Darby. Yeah,
and a David Squires print behind you.
Yeah, there we are there. Yeah. The David Squires print. Yeah.
Nick, Botan, let's be fair to him. Sean says nothing against him, but I thought he tired towards the end. What did you think of his performance? And this is no word of a criticism. I think he's a fantastic player in prospect. But what did you think?
No, what he had, it wasn't people are probably looking at last week's when he's come on
Yeah.
and made such a big influence.
Yeah.
But then when you come on at half time, you know you're only playing 45 minutes. Well, when you come on from the start, you got to save yourself for 90 minutes. Mentally, that's thing. As you're saying, he's in Ramadan, so he's not. That's got to be hard, and it's got to me.
Yeah.
It's got to be dangerous as well. You know, all doing all that, no food, no drink, and but in the spurts he had, he's exciting because he likes to get at players. And let's be honest, fans love that when you see a player trying to take players on and go at them. You know, it wasn't as consistent as the week before. No, it wasn't, but I would keep playing him. You know, our season, are we going to make the playoffs? Everyone would love to do it, but it seems a way long shot. I would keep playing him. I'd give him the experience now. He doesn't seem afraid of it. You know, he runs at them. He's not scared of players. He's not scared of getting whacked, because that's going to be his next one. Someone's going to whack him. So I'm surprised you said that Stubbs didn't do it on the weekend to show where he is, kind of thing. But no, I like him. I definitely think this is where he could really be experimenting for next season. And players like Amin, I would keep him in regular now. Give him the go.
I don't think anybody would argue about that. Gordon says Drilling and Smith played together at Orient. Oh, yes, they did. We remember that night at Brisbane Road, do we not? Hi, Royston. Smith has another year with an option for a third. And Darren says Smith contracts up in 2026, so we don't need that discussion, really. He's here next season. That's the end of that, really. I mean, was quality in the first half, but faded second half. And I think that's fair enough. Right. Okay, let's go through the Swindon lineup then, if I can find it. Connor Ripley in goal, and then across the back, Joel McGregor, who came off the ball in 87 minutes. Ollie Clark, who got a yellow on 71. Will Wright and Miguel Freckleton. Gavin Kilkenny and Danny Butterworth in midfield. Wesley coming on for Kilkenny on 77. And then Botan Amin, Tom Nichols, Cottrell on for him on 87. And Glatzel on for Kabongo Shimanga on 87 minutes, with, of course, Harry Smith up front as the main striking man. A yellow also for Kabongo Shimanga. What do you think of that lineup then, Andy? Any thought about the fact that Ollie Clark, we had a point made earlier that we miss Ollie Clark when he's not playing in midfield, which I think is fair enough, but he obviously dropped back on Saturday, didn't he?
I mean, the last couple of games he's played at the back, he's been magnificent, hasn't he? And obviously, I mean, Delaney was obviously available this time, but I can understand why he did what he did. To me, you've got to have either, in that side, you've got to have either Offer or Clark in a holding midfield. It makes us, I know Kilkenny does a great job, but I think, to me, there was, like I said earlier, there was too many gaps, and Cheltenham had the opportunity to sort of like take hold of midfield. Offerball would have broken it all up and everything like that. So, I mean, I've got to be honest, I didn't think Ollie Clark was fully fit. There was a couple of times, I mean, he got the booking, and I mean, it was literally, you know, he just didn't have the legs. So, but I mean, one of those two they've got to play. And ironically, the corresponding game up there, as a result of both of those being taken off by our illustrious manager, Mr. Kennedy, very nearly lost us the game, didn't it? So yeah, they're key players.
Hi, Mike. I'll get to you, Mike, in a minute, but this is another Mike. There are two Mikes. There was an ex-ref sat in front of me on Saturday and said the reason that the player that manhandled Smith on the halfway line didn't get sent off as last man because Smith would have been tackled before he got towards goal. Ridiculous statement, I thought. I mean, I could understand that. Yeah. But anyway, if you're a home fan, you want him sent off. If you're not a home fan, you don't want him sent off. It's one of those, isn't it, really? What about that lineup, Mike?
Can I just touch on Amin for a moment?
Yes.
And I mean, I agree with everything that's been said about his footballing skills. He's a real prospect for the future, without doubt. I absolutely agree he should be in the side right up to the end of the season to give him as much match practice as we possibly can, develop him as quickly as we can. The one thing that stands out for me is he has the most magnificent pair of sideburns I've seen.
Mungo Jerry.
Exactly. I doubt he's ever heard of Mungo Jerry, but it does appear to be where he's got the inspiration from. It's a magnificent set. if you watch the old Match of the Days from the 1970s, you saw one or two that are a little bit like it, but he's a real boy to sport that in 2025, I must admit. So.
Well, here's another thing to throw in, Mark. There's one thing that impresses me with him is his first thought is always to go forward.
Yeah,
which it does seem to be. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, the lineup, Mike, having drawn our attention to Mungo Jerry, the first time they've ever been mentioned on the Monday night panel.
Right, where was I? Yes, I totally agree with what Andy was saying about Ollie Clark. He is the last probably 3 months has been absolute godsend to us. Everything seems to revolve around him. I love the way he won the flying body check of the season award for his yellow card. I mean, that was worth a yellow card all day long. That was. I possibly agree. I think I also agree about Offerball as well. I do think we look a better side with him in there, and I couldn't quite work out why it was so late that he was brought on Saturday. Having said earlier that I thought Holloway's been brilliant in substitutions, in that one, I thought that game was crying out for him probably about 15, 20 minutes before then. Other than that, Freckleton, I thought he had a super game Saturday.
Yeah,
he looked very composed, and he has done since he's come back in. I mean, he's made a few mistakes, but earlier in the season he was making mistakes, and then you saw him turn and look at the bench, waiting for the volley of abuse and not concentrating on the game. And now he's just rolled his sleeves up and got on with it. And I thought he had another good game Saturday. So yeah, from that point of view, I'm happy with the lineup that we put out and the changes we made. I just wish maybe we'd made a couple of those changes a little bit earlier.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Angie G? Do you agree with that? I mean, it's a moot point, when a manager brings on subs, all that kind of thing. It's entirely up to him. Of course, he wasn't in the dugout, was he? Which I think probably was a big factor maybe on what he could or couldn't do. I don't know what communication they had between the stand and the bench. But he hinted on that in his after-match interview, didn't he? Where he said maybe, he didn't have as much control over the game as he usually does because he wasn't on, he wasn't in the dugout. What were your thoughts?
No, very true. I would have brought them on earlier. It looked like that they were going to come on, and then it was all changed, wasn't it? When we were getting back into the game. But I would have definitely brought them on, certainly Offerball on earlier, and given them a go. As for the team itself, it was a good team. I agree. They should try and keep him in as much as possible to give him as many starts as they can before the end of the season. And is it worth bringing a few of the other youngsters even onto the bench just to give them a little bit of a taste of things? Yes, we can still reach the playoffs, but it's highly unlikely. But the likes of who's the young lad at the back, McCormick or someone like that.
He's at Salisbury, I think, isn't it?
He is, yeah. I don't know whether is it worth bringing someone like that back in? They gave, is it Harry Chard, some sort of bench time, didn't they, a few games ago? And just, given a few of the youngsters that maybe are on the verge, a little bit more of a chance this season.
Well, Harry Chard came on against Birmingham, I think, if I remember rightly, didn't he? In the EFL Trophy, had a fabulous game.
Yeah.
I'll get to you about the lineup in a minute, Nick, but this is more from John Stevens. A bit off topic, but I was delighted to see Harry score for Bromley on Friday night. I think we all were, really. He's had a terrible time, so trust he'll get a good reception when McCurdy comes to town. By coincidence, his first LP was electronically tested by that band, Mungo Jerry. So there we are. They've been mentioned again. We'll have all sorts of things about Mungo Jerry in a minute. And by the way, in the line of one of their songs, don't do what they say. That's all I'm going to say about it. Just have a listen to it in the summertime. You'll know what I mean. What about that lineup, Nick? From a coach's point of view, how solid was it?
It looked solid. Yeah, you can't, I'm not going to, what Holloway's done, you can't really fault him at the moment. The only thing I would have is the lone players, do we have to play them? If our season's not going to make, then to me, we play our players and look for next season. We build for next season. So at the back, I know that a few of them are coming back. Minton's coming back. The other young lads coming back in at their training now. To me, I'd be putting them in. I would hardly use a lone player. What's the point? But a lot of it in the contract, you have to give them so many minutes. So you're sort of, you're stuck with that. Otherwise, I wouldn't. You'd build on what we got. And I'd always look at players. How have I got a player? Where can I get the best out of a player? So, like for me, for Butterworth, he's more of an attacking player. So I don't really want him defending. So then if I'm having Butterworth in, do I play 2 defensive mids to give Butterworth the freedom to roll? Because that's what he's stronger at. Then I would have a Kilkenny and Offerball who can sit and let someone roam in there. But then I like my wide players are mean, and then I love Cox. I think he's coming back now. He's one player I really do. I think he's a quality player. He is stuff like that. But the lineup, I never knock a manager for what he's done. He's done an unbelievable job. But that's me as a coach. I would think of I want to plan for next season now. So I want players who I know who's going to be here for next season. But again, if it's in their contract and you've got to play them, there's nothing you can do about it.
But surely, Nick, he'd look at it and he'd say, well, it's not mathematically impossible for us to get in. So does he wait until it is, kind of, or is that too late, would you say?
No, I think that's it. I'd still, I'd play him. I'd go for it for now. I would. I'd play the players I want now, thinking ready for next year and saying that we can still do it. Because some of these youngsters, I think they're good players. I really like them. I do. So I'd play them all the time if we could. But again, and I don't know is in their contracts. Does Frecklington have to play? Even though he's done well, give him credit. He's done really well since he's come back. You got to put your hand up. He's done really well to come back knowing fans were against him, and Holloway he has this magic of giving him confidence. He's done really well since he's come back. So you got to give him credit for that, because you might have thought I don't want to come back, or I'll stay back at home in Sheffield kind of thing. But he's come back and done well. But I'm always. These are my players I want to build for next season. And I think we can still have a push with these players. I think they're good enough, and I'd put them in if they were going to be here. But again, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and have we got the money? Like I see someone putting in there, White and Holloway signed the contract.
Fair enough.
Blah, blah. And that's all behind the scenes that we don't know of. In a perfect world, he'd be here. The players we got.
Fair enough. Sorry, it's all gone a bit Dalek-y for me, Nick. Is it gone a bit Dalek-y for anybody else? Or are you all there?
Yeah, you're right.
We're all right. Yeah,
right for me.
It just must be me then. No, all right.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
But
we're all back again now. That's fine. It's taken a while to get to Devon. That's all it is. Right, Daz St George has got some information for us all, and here it is: a 3-match ban, 15 yellows before the 38th league game. Harry is on 9 yellows and 1 red. So the 38th game is on Saturday. So that's it. 3-match ban, 15 yellow cards before the 38th league game. So Harry should be okay for that. There's another one here, which Butterworth seems more effective when he comes off the bench than when he starts. Discuss. I mean, he certainly scored. Did he score at Accrington coming off the bench? I can't remember. Or was he in the starting lineup? But he certainly was at Doncaster. He came on and scored a cracker at Doncaster. Is that a fair point, Andy?
Yes, it is. He's an interesting one, isn't he? Because I really don't think we've still seen the best of Butterworth. There's times there's been flashes. I mean, where was that goal he scored? That was Accrington, wasn't it?
Accrington, yeah.
Sensational. Yeah, and then obviously he scored the infamous one at Barrow because he had a shot.
He had a shot. Yeah. How dare he?
Sorry, I think he got fined for that. I honestly think there is more to him, because he's a bit like Amin in as much that he gets the ball on the ground and he runs at people, and there's defenders hate that. Do you bring him on or start with him? Yeah, I do get it, because sometimes he can go missing, and I don't really know where his optimal position is. I mean, obviously I'd say more out on the left, but I still think that there's more of a player, and that's the type of player that you probably do need to sort of keep starting, so you can see where, if you're planning for next season. Because again, I mean, I presume he's here for another year, because I think he's on a 2-year. So, but no, an interesting one. Yeah.
Let's have a look. More of your comments coming in. Hi, Ian. Fans want the strongest team out there to try and win rather than giving the kids a chance. Gordon says, Holloway stated some time ago he doesn't have to play lone players. Ollie had to start Clark at the back. Delaney, good solid defender, but slow and got caught out for the second against Salford and again at Doncaster. Wesley should start, seems to score from open play when he comes on, says Gary. And James says, Ollie said Freckleton's our best actual tackler and defender. Suspect, that is defender, suspect. Suspect, that's why he starts when fit. Sorry, my inability to read words didn't really help there, did it? Right, here's a couple here. Rich James Mike says, will Ian Holloway stay as manager? And Sean follows that up by, am I the only one worried about Ollie not signing a contract? Seems as interviews go on about it and seems to be going from when it's done, then in hands of the owners, etc. What are your thoughts on that, Mike? Is he said judge him at the end of the season. I kind of think it might be almost done. What are your thoughts on it?
I thought it was done about a month ago. And certainly listening to interviews with him a month ago, it sounded like it was a done deal. It just seems in the last couple of weeks that that's not quite got over the line, and he's being a little bit more maybe circumspect in his public comments that he gives out. I heard somebody on Saturday saying he's playing for time in case Bristol Rovers sack another manager. I don't personally believe that. I believe that he does want to stay here. Maybe they want to have the season over before they have that proper discussion with him and sit down. Who knows? I just find it a little bit confusing, the messages that he gives out and how they've changed over the last couple of weeks. That is a bit of a concern. I do hope the guy stays. I really hope he stays. And I really hope that Clem recognises what he's done and gives him the right contract that he needs and he's looking for. We would go backwards if he was to leave at the end of the season. I think that would be not a good move for this club if we didn't keep him on. But I don't understand why it's not a done deal.
What about you, Andy G? Because I think the one thing we all agree upon is he's got that connection between the fans and the team again, hasn't he? That which was lacking, shall we say, under the previous manager and maybe part of last season. But that's the one thing really that is the biggest highlight, that connection once again between fans and players.
Yeah, it is. And he's done an absolutely fantastic job in galvanizing, the supporters and with the team and trying to bring things together. Because as we know, things haven't been the best behind the scenes, and he's tried to sort of bring the supporters back into it, if you like. Will he sign a new contract? I'm absolutely, hopefully he will. What's he waiting for, or what are they waiting for? I don't know. Perhaps he'll sign just before season tickets are announced. Who knows?
Well, that point has been made by James. Would that be a good move, Nick?
Well, of course it would, wouldn't it? Because the fans love him, don't they? And I think why fans love him is one, his passion for the game, and it's two, his honesty. Because that's all we want. Like, I thought his interview Saturday after the game was so good. I thought it was one of his best interviews. Yeah. He weren't happy with the 3-3. He complained about the goals, which is what we could all see. It's point to say we were unlucky to win. Somebody just come out on a wind swirl the pitch, and he moaned about that, but they still shouldn't have got the goals. Where was the block for the first one? Where was this for the second? And that's what we could see that. So when you get that honesty from a coach, you love him. You think, this is what I want to hear. I don't want to hear the crap. Like when he said before, was it Kennedy? Oh, percentages, he's the best defender and all that when they're making mistakes. You think, where are you getting these stats from? He got all these stats Kennedy used to come out with. And I was going, where's he get them from? But Holloway is to the point and everyone loves it. And that's what you want. Just honesty.
Yeah, and I think it was a very refreshing interview because he didn't pull any punches, but he did it in a way that wasn't throwing too many people under. You know what I mean? He did it in a way that wasn't throwing people under the bus. But he was honest and he said what we all saw, which is fair enough. Sean says he stays and season ticket sales will go back up. Already see some saying they will do so. Andy, what's your view on it? I mean, I think we all are in agreement that, he needs to sign a contract. He needs to be here next season. and give him a good close season to get his team sorted out. I think that we all need to see that, don't we?
Yeah, I don't think there's nothing positive about him not being here, is it? Let's be fair. It's an absolute must for the club, but for the ownership as well. I mean, where else do you go after this? They've tried everything else. You crawl over broken glass to keep him, because I think he's got aspirations of building. I mean, we're talking about looking at players now. He's probably looking at this existing squad. Whilst I hear people saying bring in the kids and everything like that, but he's probably having a look at people now, and their attitudes now about building his team for next season. The people that he's got here, I'm confident that he'll stay. It makes sense. I mean, all right, he's had a history of what he did at Plymouth. But I think he's a lot older now, and I mean he's probably more settled. I mean he lives local, it's on his doorstep, and he's got a project here, isn't he? I mean we said from the start of the season, this has been this was a decent squad that Jamie Russell put together, and it's showing now, because there's some decent players, and he's added a couple of signings, some loan signings, and obviously the goalkeeper. And with his connections in next year, let's hope that he can bring some more quality in. We do need it, Let's not beat around the bush. It's a decent side. Is this a promotion-winning side? All right, that's a moot point. They definitely need 3 or more players. I think we need another goalkeeper, and we need some pace at the back. Someone alluded to that.
Well, we'll get onto that in a minute, because there's a point that's been made about a certain player, which I'll get to Mike about in a minute.
Yeah.
So
I think in answer to the question, I just genuinely hope. I really do hope. We don't have any inside knowledge, do we? But I'm confident that he has signed or will sign.
I think Mark says, I think Holloway wants to win this league. I also think he will want certain assurances before committing. He's staying, loves being local, players love him, and we've got better ground and facilities than Rovers all day long, says Gary. Here's a point, which actually I was a little bit surprised about the fact he didn't come on. This is from Adrian. No mention of Sabawali, who in my eyes should be in the starting lineup every week. And I was a bit surprised, Mike, that he didn't, play him or come on, because he's got pace. He runs at people. Why do you think he didn't?
I thought you were going to say that you were a bit surprised that I didn't mention it earlier on, because the last time I was on a few weeks ago, I told you that Sobowale was my player of the season by some distance. I still feel that now, and I was watching him really closely when he was warming up on Saturday, and he had this look about him like he didn't expect to get on. When you see players warming up, occasionally they're trying to get the eye of the manager, and they're really going through the process. He was just trotting up and down and chatting to people and stuff. But he didn't look like he was going to get on, like he knew he wasn't going to get on. And I don't understand why. Obviously, Holloway is seeing something that we don't see, because he sees him in training every single day of the week. But I can't remember a time that Sobowale's let us down, and he brings so much to the party. When he's on form, he's far and away our most attacking player, our most creative player. It's quite a difficult thing to get your head around, really. If Holloway was to come out and say, he trains like a dog every week and he's always late and he's blah blah blah, you can understand it. But it just seems to be sidelined for no apparent reason.
Yeah,
what Twine was a few years ago. This poor lad jumping up and down on the touchline for 90 minutes and never getting a game.
Yeah. Angie G, that's the thing. If you were a tired defender late on in the game, you call Sobowale were coming on, you were thinking, oh, crikey, this isn't too good, is it? He has got that pace which would frighten people, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, he has. Yeah, but then again, you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. You don't know what goes on in training. Has there been some differences? Is he late? Is he? You just don't know. But then, would you expect the manager to come out and say that in public? I very much doubt it somehow.
Because I I like him. He's the sort of player I like. He just
Yeah.
gets forward. You know, he's got a lot of pace and he
Yeah,
attacks,
absolutely.
crosses the ball. He can do most stuff, can't he? I mean, he's effectively a winger, isn't he? So
He is. Yeah. And for me, I would start him every week, but something's happened and something's stopping him getting a game at the moment.
Nick, come on, put yourself in the coach's dugout. Late in the game, late in the game, you need a bit of pace down the right hand side. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I was hoping you weren't going to ask me because I don't rate him.
Oh,
I think he's got great pace, but it's not. When I watch him, I always think of like, what's his end product? I don't think his end product's he can run with it, but I don't think he does a lot with it. When I've seen him, I don't rate him that highly. I think he gives the ball away a lot. So to me, it's pointless having pace if you're not going to. I'll go back to when I first started coaching years ago, and my God to me is John Trollope. I coach with John, and he's God. And I remember his big thing was, it's pointless you beating 3 and 4 players. If you lose it to the 5th, you might as well beat the 1st. So there's no end product. It's pointless doing it. And I think a lot of the time there's no end product with him. He'll run. He's quick. He looks great. But then his crossing, I didn't think it was that great. And and I'm always worried with his pace. He's going to trip someone up and he's going to foul. So or do so. I can see why he's not playing personally. I wouldn't start him. I wouldn't have him in my starting 11 of the squad we got, because I think we've got a good squad. I've said that all season. I think we've had a good squad.
Fair enough. Well, there we are.
Yeah,
Coach Vitali has spoken, so there we are. Let's put us in this part play.
The pigeons there.
Right, let's have a look. Other comments. Hi, Daz. Bristol Rovers struggling, which is good, but would Holloway go there if approached? Matt says, is not the ball in his court? Wait for mid-table, contract, playoffs, promotion. It's a waiting game. Well, let's have a look at the table. Surprisingly, in 7th place, Colchester played 37, 12 goal difference, positive, 58 points. Swindon are in 15th place, played 37, goal difference of 0 and points 47. I'm going to put the bottom 3 in, just pure, not the bottom 3, but Accrington, they're in 20th, played 37, minus 10 goal difference, 40 points. 23rd are Morecambe, 37 played, minus 23 goal difference, 30 points. And bottom of the table, Carlisle, 36 games played, minus 27, 27 points. Morecambe drew Saturday, Carlisle lost. Are they gone, Andy? Are they?
Sadly, I think so. Nice club. It's not working out for them. Obviously, even with Mark Hughes' factor, I can't see them, coming back from this. I mean, obviously, Morecambe are fighting, and Tranmere are as well. So it's going to be an interesting see the other one that's going to come through. I mean, from a I suppose a very selfish point of view, we're sort of pleased that Carlisle, because of the journey, isn't it? Carlisle and Morecambe get those out of the way, and you get Barnet and one other. It could be Gateshead, couldn't it? So
yeah. Fly there.
So yeah. Careful what you wish for.
Yeah. Are you surprised that Colchester in 7th? I mean, let's put it like this: we're 11 points back, which is 4 games, isn't it? They've got a better goal difference than we have, so it's effectively 12 points, isn't it? Is that too much?
Are we allowed to mention that night? I know we were. That was probably the lowest we've ever in our years of watching. But Colchester aren't a bad side, and they've got that one chap called Jack Payne, haven't they? Who's the best midfielder in the division. So I don't want to give the Chuckle brothers too much credit, but they're obviously doing something well with what they've got. And I mean, we've had good. We gave them some. There were some good games, in the cup match as well down here. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. But yeah, we can't seem to. I mean, we still got a chance. There's still an outside chance. There's Mike's magic spreadsheet will tell you that the average is 72 points to get into the playoffs. So you've got to win most of them. There's still always a chance. But that gap's not getting any worse, is it? So you never know.
But the games are running out, Mike, aren't they?
They
I mean, that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, every game that we don't win now, that required points, the pressure is on every other game, and it's very, very nearly 3 points per game to get to the 72. And I think it's 2.7 something now. If we don't win Saturday, it will be 3 points per game because you've got a much smaller number to divide the number of points by. For me, I think probably about 3-4 games ago, it was probably the point. I think the last time we were on, we were just about to play Salford, Walsall, and Doncaster.
Yeah.
I said to you, if we get 9 points out of those, then it's on, and we can smell Wembley. But obviously we didn't, and we've dropped points. We've dropped points since then. So, as far as I'm concerned, we are now into sort of end of season football, and now's the time that we can try something different. We can try a different formation. We can move people around. We can try different partnerships because pressure's off. Surely, yes, I know technically, mathematically, we could do it, but we're relying on 7 other teams not doing it that are above us at the moment.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen, I'm afraid.
No. Dad says Colchester unbeaten on 11, so they're on a good run, aren't they? Salford, Cheltenham, and Harrogate results really hurt us. I mean, you look at that, that's 2, 4, 7 points dropped in 3 games. I mean, if we said before the Salford, Doncaster and Walsall games, you'd get a 1 win and 2 draws. You'd been delighted earlier in the season, wouldn't you? You'd have taken it happily, but sadly not. Richard, hi Richard, up there in the far north. I have a thought for those up here in Scotland, gents. Carlisle will be much missed if when they drop. So, yeah, fair point. But if you get Gateshead into return, that's fair enough. So there we are. Adrian says, how can Wright score brilliant free kicks, yet he has no clue how to take a corner, especially when a 6'5" forward to aim at. Thoughts? Yeah, get a decent corner in, Nick. Andy G. What? I mean, you got 6'5" centre forward. Ball needs to get in that 6-yard box. Thanks very much, doesn't it?
That's what you got to go for, isn't it? Showed it yesterday in the cup final with Burn. Well,
he was 25 yards out, wasn't he, when he headed that?
Yeah, he was. You got a big man in there. That's who you're aiming for, isn't it? So, and if you can't do that, then I don't know. Look at someone who can put a cross in that's able to find the big man.
Yeah, I actually mentioned that. We should say congratulations to Newcastle because it's been a long time for them, hasn't it, since they won a trophy. So, and it was a really good performance from them. Nick, you want to cross in 6'5" centre forward? Bang! Thanks very much, don't you? That's what it's about.
Yeah. Unless you're like Liverpool, you put McAllister on the big man. I never understood.
And large.
Such good saves. That was great coaching. That isn't it? Put your little man on the big guy.
There was what I always remember. There was one corner they had there, and it looked like he needed a stepladder to get anywhere near him, didn't he? I mean, it was unbelievable, really.
Yeah, because I did think now. I thought he can't be marking him. So what he got him marking him for? That just didn't make sense. But yeah, that's what you'd look at. But then if you're a good team, so you got to have 3 or 4 different options, are you? Because if you're a good team, you're just gonna, put 2 on Smith to stop your so-say corners. You got to have different options. But your first one is, pick him out because when he's, those crosses come in. What was that game earlier?
That was the EFL trophy, wasn't it? Absolute corker.
Oh, that was a great goal. That was, wasn't it? What a goal that was!
I got a feeling that was that Sobowale who crossed it in. I'm not sure. I can't remember now. It was a fabulous cross, and Harry Smith just went, "Thank you very much. That'll do nicely."
Back in it. That was a great header. When his power is headed, he's going to be your first option, without a doubt. Because he wins most of it. He's always here challenging. But after a while, if they're picking up on him, then where's option, B and C and D kind of thing for you to do. That's the beauty of set plays, isn't it?
And Ian says, why is the centre half taking corners?
Yeah.
Oh, anyway.
Harry Kane used to take them for England.
Yeah, Yeah, but then he used to run into the middle and head it. Right, let's go through Saturday's fixtures that sort of kind of matter. Bradford against Colchester, Swindon Accrington, Port Vale Morecambe, Carlisle Bromley, and as we said, well done to Harry McCurdy. Fabulous finish last week for Bromley, and he's had a tough time, so we won't, that's good for him. And Fleetwood against Tranmere. Right, Accrington at home, Andy. Essential we get a win.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Well, you've got to say, it's got to be a win. I like Accrington, don't we? Nice club.
Yeah, very nice.
They'll bring a few down, not many, but we've had two lovely days up there this year, haven't we? I mean, that's how a club should be. So hats off to them. Let's put them to bed though. 3-0. And like we did when they were champions a few years ago.
I think it's fair to say they'd had a long week celebrating.
They had, yeah.
Wasn't
that when both James Dunn's got sent off, if I recall?
It was. You could tell that if there'd been a breath test in that game, it might have been a problem. They'd had a few. Mike, what are your thoughts on it?
We owe them. We owe them for denying us a chance to play Liverpool in the cup.
Yeah. Would have been a very early start, Mike. 12:30 kickoff. What do you reckon then?
I'm sure we could have managed it. I think we'll. I think we'll 2-0 win.
2-0, Andy.
I'm going to go 3-1 win. I think we'll concede, unfortunately.
Nick.
Yeah, I think we'll concede. If you remember last time when I was on, we had a 4-game thing, and I was the only one who said we win all 4, and we won all 4.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I reckon right. I reckon it's going to be
Solomon was playing.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think he was injured at that.
You
4-2.
4-2. Oh, that'd be all right. Because let's be honest, I think isn't there a ridiculous stat that Swindon are amongst the top teams in the country for the amount of goals scored in their games? Because we are getting a lot, aren't we? Let's be honest. Why are there not standards for pitches? Colchester's got to be the worst, followed by Salford and even Bradford. Shocking pitches, but haven't said that. Having said that, pain and play them all. But I get the point you're making about pitches. Anyway, thank you all very much indeed, gentlemen. If I might make a shameless plug for the museum's documentary about the 1969 League Cup campaign. If you get a chance to watch that, it's 50 minutes long, and it might bring you back some lovely memories for you. So, Against All Odds, it's called. So if you look at that on YouTube, enjoy. That's all I can say, Chris.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to you all. Vic and I will be back next Monday for another Monday night panel after the Accrington game. So wish everybody a good week, and we will see you next week. Okay, see you next Monday. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.